I'm the dude. So that's what you call me.
Are you a virgin?
Yeah, not since I was 10.
Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret.
Come on to the coast. We get together, have a few laughs.
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Can I return it if it doesn't fit?
It always fits. Eventually.
Welcome back, Movie Minglers. It's Caveman.
And Maggie.
And we're here with episode 14, and we just finished watching Whiplash.
Or Bummerland, as I think it deserves to be called.
Yes, first we had La La Land.
And now we have fucking Bummerland.
Bummerland from the same writer-director who really, really loves jazz.
Who really needs to fucking get over himself, honestly. Caveman and I didn't talk about this movie after it finished. We immediately set up the recording. We did our notes super fast, and now we're here talking about it. So now I finally get to unleash the pure vitriol and complete hatred that I have for this fucking movie.
Wow.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, guys. I hated this goddamn film. So...
Well, let's get into a little bit of the background of this movie, just real quick. We've got the same director and writer that we had last week from La La Land, which was Damien Chazelle. This movie was made in 2014. Music was also done by the same guy from La La Land, Justin Hurwitz. And cinematographer is different this time. Instead of the same cinematographer he used for La La Land and First Man and Babylon, this time he has Sharon Muir, who, as far as the movies I've seen or heard of, before this movie, I don't recognize the films that he's worked on at all. So this is definitely that cinematographer's first better-known film. He just recently was the cinematographer on a movie that came out this last April, which was Monkey Man, which, I mean, they're both pretty dark films.
Monkey Man was a lot better, though.
That's a different
Art being
writer.
subjective,
That's
but like it was
different writer director.
Yeah, it was a lot better.
Whiplash was made for $3.3 million, and it made $13 million domestically, and the editing and the sound also won Oscars. The movie, before it was released to general audiences, went through the regular film festival circuit, and at Sundance it won the Grand Jury Prize in 2014. And J.K. Simmons pretty much swept the awards that year for his acting in this one. He was winning everything: the Golden Globes, Critics' Choice Awards, the BAFTAs. He was the star of the award season that year. It stars Miles Teller, J.K. Simmons, as I said, and Melissa Benoist. Most of you might know Melissa from the Supergirl TV series from the Berlanti-verse back when it was on actually more than one channel back in the day. And just a quick synopsis of the film. We've got Andrew Neiman, played by Miles Teller, who's an ambitious young jazz drummer, single-minded in his pursuit to rise to the top of his elite East Coast music conservatory. Plagued by the failed writing career of his father, Andrew hungers day and night to become one of the greats. Terrence Fletcher, played by J.K. Simmons, is an instructor equally known for his teaching talents and for his terrifying methods, leads the top jazz ensemble in the school. Fletcher discovers Andrew and transfers the aspiring drummer into his own band, forever changing the young man's life. Andrew's passion to achieve perfection quickly spirals into obsession as his ruthless teacher continues to push him to the brink of both his ability and his sanity.
In other words, this movie is just assholes play jazz and yell at each other about jazz and play very loud jazz. And in general, it's just assholes and jazz. And I don't understand. I'm looking at the top 10 lists that it was on, which are about 57 lists. And 5 of those lists had it at first place for 2014 when it came out. People fucking loved this movie, and I'm just really curious. What movie did they watch that I didn't watch? Because all I watched was assholes and jazz. And, like, I don't get it. Is this like a man movie? And I don't like it because I'm not a dude? I don't understand. It was just an asshole takes another asshole, turns him into a bigger asshole with jazz. And don't get me wrong, I like jazz music. Like, it's fine. In fact, one of the main songs in this movie is Caravan, which is a song that I've always really enjoyed. It was a song I grew up with. I think that's a great little, like, jazz song. It's a lot of fun. It's a classic. But I still don't understand what's going on here. Because it was just under 2 hours of assholes and jazz, and Damien Chazelle, like, did he not think that his whole Charlie Parker rant in this movie was good enough? So he had to write an entire another film
He was like,
and shoehorn it back in and
I don't
make
think
it.
people quite understood where I was going
People
for with
were really
Whiplash.
coming through with the Charlie Parker
So
love.
I
So
need
now
to
I'm going to
make-
make
I'm gonna make
Ryan
a-
Gosling do it, and maybe people will pay attention.
This time I'm
better.
going to do a musical, and people aren't going to use the derogatory words for homosexuals.
Oh my
and
God. That was uncomfortable. I mean, again, it was a decade ago, but
treating
still.
women like trash.
Yeah.
And
I'm so glad he let Supergirl go because, like,
oh yeah,
girl, run.
He did not deserve her.
No,
And
he deserves nothing.
She got out. She got out of that relationship. Yeah, in the moment it hurt her.
Yeah, but
it was
she
a
got
hurtful thing for him
lucky.
to say to her. But yeah, she's lucky. She's the lucky one in this one.
This dude Andrew just becomes a drug addict for drumming in a jazz band, and I don't understand why this movie is ranked above other movies on our Letterboxd list. What did I just watch that other people didn't watch? What am I not seeing here?
Well, you asked if it was a dude movie, and sometimes I consider myself a dude, but other times not. And in this case, sure, I like Fight Club, and I like Joker to an extent, but not the Batman parts of it. This movie did not hit me in like, hey, you're a dude, you should like this.
So then what am I missing?
I don't, I went through this. I don't think we said it.
No, we haven't said it yet.
This is the first movie we've done so far that I have not seen.
Yes.
I did not see this movie because the previews just looked like a guy drumming a lot.
Fucking, and that's what the movie was.
Turns out that's what it was about.
Yeah.
And even they tried to make it so dramatic. Like, we really need to make this drumming dramatic. He's going to be bleeding and sweating, and we're going to have slow-mo cymbals with sweat beating off of them, and the sticks and the snare drum are going to have blood all over them, and it's going to be really, and
it's going to be brutal, and it's
people are
going to be
just
intense,
yelling.
and it's going to be jazz.
We're going to yell at each other in a way of encouraging. It's tough love, to the point where the teacher possibly drove somebody to suicide because, tough love. I was just trying to get his potential out.
Yeah, he was a great musician, so I drove him to the point of his own greatness, but then he killed himself at 24 or something. Like, I don't, like, okay, yes. J.K. Simmons' character was a giant asshole.
Absolutely.
Like,
massive.
huge dick.
Yeah.
And, all of his methods are bad, and you can see it. You can see the way that he demeans people and abuses people and fucks with people, and that is not something that a decade later would fly. I don't think that those sorts of teachers really exist anymore outside of, like, the military, which I think is the only place where that sort of abusive mentorship is allowed anymore. Because, like, these days, luckily, if shit like that happens in an office, somebody's going straight to AR, and that guy's on his ass out on the front street. Like, I get that it's kind of a product of its time, of, like, the early 2000s, early 2010s, and it's kind of a dying, like, thought process of somebody being that much of a prick just to get people to be their best. Maybe that's why I don't like it.
Other than the military, I would say I compared it to sport coaches.
Yeah.
Sport coaches can be massive assholes and do a lot of yelling. And I mean, you see them on the sidelines during games. They are red beat in the face, just screaming at these guys. During practice, they probably pull some shit.
Yeah. Well, that's also, I mean, it's not one of the reasons I don't watch sports, but I don't really like sports. And that's, there you go. I don't know. Like, maybe it's there's something about this movie and I that have this giant disconnect of just, like, I hated it. And
I didn't enjoy it. I mean, there were some moments where I was just like, all right, I'm starting to ease into J.K. Simmons' character. I'm starting to ease into Miles Teller's character. But then they just come back with another huge douchebag move. And I didn't think Miles Teller's character could be a bigger asshole than J.K. Simmons, but by the end, I feel like he was an even bigger asshole. He reached, he met J.K. Simmons at the same level of assholery. And like when this movie first starts off, I was like I said, I have no idea what this movie's about. I know there are two things I knew. I knew one was a student, and the other one was more of a teacher. And I didn't necessarily know he was a teacher. I just thought he was this mentor that was trying to get something out of these younger people. Not that they were students or he was a teacher. But so when I first started watching it, I was like, okay, he's a drummer, and he really wants to be in this band, I guess. Okay, now he really wants to be in this guy's band. Okay, it's not a band. It's a college studio, whatever they were calling it.
Yeah, it's basically like a band for competitions.
I get it.
Kind of what I got was that this was a competition-based band.
Sure, and they tour, and they're important people in the audience, I guess, that look for talented musicians at these competitions, and then you have a chance to go even above and beyond your career as a
fucking
musician.
jazz drummer.
Sure, I guess. I'm sure it's still people's passion. I don't know.
I mean, look, and that's okay if you're out there listening to it and you're like, well, you just don't understand jazz. Like, I get it. If jazz drumming is your passion and it's what you want to do with your life, have fun. Great. If you fucking love this movie, fantastic. Like, go forth and, I don't know, just don't be an asshole and don't throw chairs at each other and don't fucking...
Well, I think that the chair throwing was, he had just finished telling a story about...
Charlie Barker.
Yeah, throwing a cymbal at another musician, and I was like, as soon as he's told that story, I was like, oh, that's going to come back.
Yep.
And then he tried to be buddy. J.K. Simmons' character tried to be all buddy with Andrew, and being like, what's your parents? What do your parents do?
Oh, that was so fucking
like
cool.
trying to like be on his side
J.K.
and
Simmons
chummy
is
friends.
so evil in this movie.
J.K. Simmons is the one thing I enjoyed, even though the character is a huge douchebag. I was still liking J.K. Simmons as an actor.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, all right, J.K. Simmons is a great actor. I can
Like,
understand
I
why
totally
he was
get
winning
it. Yeah.
the award that year.
I understand why they gave him the award for this movie. Like, not only has he had a stellar career up to that point and since then, like, he deserves to get his flowers. He deserves his awards. But there's nothing redeeming about his character. His character is pure evil. He is manipulative. He's a straight-up dick. We can talk at length about whether or not he's good for Andrew's character, or Miles Teller's character, Andrew. But ultimately, he's just an asshole who's being an asshole who's creating more assholes. And
his only excuse for it is,
I just want people to do better.
I want them to
because
reach.
I love jazz.
I love jazz so much. Yeah, I want to create more famous musicians by being an asshole to them. Mm-hmm. You know, he had one example. He had one example of a musician being an asshole to another musician,
yeah.
Which is why he's being an asshole to these people. And he didn't give any stories about musicians who are just good musicians.
Yeah, just people
who
that
go
are good
out
at what they
into
do.
the world and are great because of what they do, and they didn't have some asshole standing over them being an asshole.
Yeah.
And that's all I got from this was, and I even wrote down, J.K. Simmons is such a dick. Will we ever find out why?
No.
And
we
really,
never did.
no. If the only excuse is...
Because it's not his story.
No,
he's
it's
just
not his story.
the asshole.
Yeah, he's just the asshole. But that's where I kind of ran into, like, there's no redemption for any character in this movie except for Melissa Benoist, because she
gets the fuck
out
away
of
from
there.
it, yeah.
And I'm like, good for you, Melissa.
And you know what? Paul Reiser as Andrew's dad.
I always love seeing Paul Reiser.
Paul Reiser was a solid man throughout this whole movie. Like, he cares about his son. He wants his son to succeed. He's worried about his child. You know.
Yeah, he
at the end
goes behind his back to get him to punish J.K. Simmons' character.
Yeah, like he's a good father. So he's the good of this movie, and he's in it for like 6 minutes.
Yeah.
The rest of the time, it's just
Between him and Melissa Benoist. J.K. Simmons' character is just overly rude for no reason. He's homophobic. He fat shames. He's sexist. He does all this for competition.
I'm actually surprised he's not racist.
It's the fact that they didn't have any of that in. It's making fun of I don't know if they had J.K. Simmons just come up with some of these insults on the top of his head, or if it was actually written in the script. There were some things where I'm just like, where would you even? How is that even an insult? Like sometimes I didn't write any of the insults down. I wish I did, just to come back with some of them, because some of them are just absolutely ridiculous. I do love when white people are racist to other white people by calling them by their country origins, like any kind of like Irish, Italian heritage, and you point that out. Personally, as a none of it, you know what I mean?
Where are you going here?
It's a white guy being racist to another white guy.
Yeah, by making fun of the redhead for being Irish.
Of their country of origin when they're not even from that country.
Yeah.
Just you have red hair, you're
automatically
stupid,
an Irishman. Yeah.
And it's some of the laziest kind of insults that somebody could. And J.K. Simmons' character had a lot of them.
Oh, yeah. So
I was rolling my eyes at some of them, just like, how is that even?
Yeah.
You're just yelling at somebody and just coming up with insults, even though the insults are dumb.
It's being mean for the sake of being mean. It's just trying to find, the one thing that's going to get through the person's skin. Like, I know some people that can look at me and automatically know all of my insecurities. There are people like that out there, and I wish I was one of them, in all honesty. Because, my God, and I am to an extent, but not like the way that I've had some people look at me and immediately zone in on the one part of me that I hate the most, and just know how to use that against me. And they're assholes. You know, that's just how that goes. But he's just yelling bad words and mean words for the sake of being mean. But apparently, the only line that J.K. Simmons improvised is when he called Miles Teller a self-righteous little prick. So, and that's according to IMDb, the trivia section. Just a quick note to our lovely listeners. If I sound a little off or you hear any sniffles, I'm currently getting over a cold as we record this, so forgive me for any occasional signs of that. Apparently this film is one of the lowest grossing movies ever to be nominated for an Academy Award for Best Picture.
It was pretty low grossing.
Yeah.
Like I said, domestically it only did...
So when this
13.
movie came out, you said 13 million or so.
Domestically, it made more worldwide, but the studio only gets like 20% of that back.
Do you think there's somebody out there that's like, Whiplash is my favorite film?
I'm sure there are. I could go on Amazon right now and look at 5-star reviews or Letterboxd.
I guarantee none of them are women. This is a man's film. I know. There's no reason for me to bring gender into this, except for, as a woman, as a strong woman, I sat there watching this movie, and all I could think was, I would not put up with this shit. There's no part of me that is competitive enough, that is talented enough, although I'm very talented at a lot of things, but not to the point that I would go through that in order to further my talent.
That's why you'll never be famous, because you didn't go through the shit.
Great. Give me a happy little life where I do laundry with you and we talk about movies every day. That's all I want.
I understand.
My whole point is that I don't know a lot of women that would sit through that sort of like soul-crushing hatred from somebody else to try to make them better at whatever they want to achieve. Because I think most of us are like, we do that enough to ourselves already, so I don't need J.K. Simmons yelling at me just to make me cry, to make me feel bad. Like, fuck that guy, I'm out. That's why I'm bringing gender into this story. It's mainly just because I don't know a lot of women that would deal with that. I don't know a lot of people in general that would, like, I can imagine. We have a really good musician friend. His name is Marco Palos. If you haven't heard of his music before, definitely check him out. He is a fantastic working musician in Southern California. He travels the world. He writes his own songs. He puts out his own music. He's got a big band, a big jazz band, I might add. He's an incredible musician, band leader and human being, and I love him to death. I could not see him going through any of this to be better. Like, I just don't, maybe it's a self-confidence thing, but like, I just couldn't, oh, there's glass in my finger.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I just can't imagine dealing with that just for fucking jazz drumming. Like, and I'm sorry, I know that I'm sure that plenty of jazz musicians feel this way, or maybe they don't. I don't know. I'm not one of them. I can't say. But apparently there was a poster hanging up in the background of one of the scenes that said, like, you know, be the best or you'll become a rock star or something.
Yeah, I saw that.
And it's like,
I think it was a quote from a jazz musician.
Which, you know what, that's all well and fine, I guess, if you feel that way. But name a jazz drummer right now off the top of your head.
Well, I'm not... I
Yeah, but you can fucking name Taylor Hawkins and Keith Moon and fucking the guy from Queen, whose name I can't remember.
Well, yeah,
Roger
but
Taylor.
I think that's what they're saying. I think in this movie they're saying that jazz, because it's Damien Chazelle,
Yeah.
he's saying that jazz is the
one true
genre of music, and
Which fucking get over yourself,
if
dude.
you can't make it in jazz, then go be a rock star.
Which, yeah,
it's
I'd
essentially
rather be
like
Taylor
it's what
Hawkins.
rock stars or rock music fans would say about pop music.
Yeah.
If you can't make it as a musician here, go be a pop star.
People are snobs about their genres of music, and I understand that, but I'm still saying that I personally would rather be Keith Moon for all of his insanity and the shit that man lived and did than I would be I would rather be Keith Moon than Andrew. Fucking, I'm Andrew Neiman versus Keith fucking Moon. Like, I don't know. I don't understand why people like this movie. And that's going to be my rant for most of the rest of this podcast is I don't get it. Which might be the first time I've been this angry about a movie since The Joker, but I actually enjoyed The Joker, whereas I really hate this film. If I never see this film again, it's too soon.
J.K. Simmons' character definitely gets off on getting into people's heads first and then using it against them later. Not only did he do it by getting into more of Andrew's backstory about his parents and then making fun of him later constantly about his mother leaving him when he was a baby and blaming Andrew for it, just to get under Andrew's skin, and he continually does it. And after a while, you're sitting there and you're just like, this guy is just annoying now. He's gotten to the point he yells and he yells and he yells, and then there was a moment where the movie is really trying to make you feel sorry for the guy, to really to sympathize for the character, to show his softer side when he finds out that one of his past students who played the trumpet, as the music is playing on the CD's playing on the boombox, and you're hearing this beautiful trumpet music, and he starts tearing up because the guy playing the trumpet was one of his past students who recently got in a car crash. And I was actually worried that it was going to be the guy he saw in the hallway earlier with the little girl.
Mm-hmm. I was kind of worried about that too.
I was thinking, oh, him and his daughter just died. So you're like, oh, okay, so he does care about these people that he teaches or conducts, creates. Yeah, he is the creator. This is my music, and even though it's not his music, and this is my, you're my artist, whatever. Yeah. I'm the artist, you're my paint, or some bullshit like that we've heard before. And then immediately after, he's a huge dick again to Andrew, making Andrew think that he's the main drummer of this band, and then immediately replacing him with somebody
who is of a lesser talent. He does it just to get under Andrew's skin. And he does the exact same thing to his previous drummer, and the way that he treats the previous drummer in the band. And so there's this whole thing about the sheet music for the drummer going missing, and that's how Andrew becomes the core drummer for the band, and fucking blah blah blah. But you never find out how that sheet music disappears.
I guarantee it was J.K.
Yeah,
Simmons'
it was
character.
the assumption that it was J.K. Simmons who took the sheet music, and so that Andrew could go out there and be the star. Because I think that, I mean, I know that J.K. Simmons sees the talent that Andrew possesses. But, like, do you have to be such a prick to pull it out of him? Like, you know, and then, you know, you do you've done the exact same thing. This man has done the exact same thing to countless of other musicians throughout the years. And one of them even kills himself because of it. And your response is to what? Shed a tear, call him beautiful, and go on with being an asshole? Like, he learned nothing from the death of that student. He didn't even... Actually, I don't even know if he knows how that student killed himself. Maybe he was told it was a car crash. Well, I mean,
I think
he wasn't.
separate.
He wasn't going to tell. He wasn't going to tell his students. You know, this guy was an incredible student, and he hung himself.
Student?
Yeah.
I thought they were a separate student. One died in a car crash, the other one hung himself.
No. It's the same student. It was just that the family said that he died in a car crash, but in actuality, it was because he hung himself. That's what the lawyer was saying. He hung himself because of, you know, the anxiety and depression that he had, which, according to that person's mom, started when he became J.K. Simmons' like pupil.
Right.
So, you know, this guy has literally led people to, like, the worst fate, but it doesn't stop him. He learns nothing from that. And he even gets fired for how he acts. And it doesn't stop him. Although I think that ultimately it was his want to destroy Andrew Teller, or Miles Teller, or Andrew, whatever you want to call him, at the end of the movie, like, the whole setup, which we'll get to in a minute, about the climax of the film. Like, I don't know, there's nothing redeeming about any of these characters except for Paul Reiser. And Supergirl, because she got to fly away.
Well, and about her, she obviously works at the movie theater that him and his dad go to, and he works up the courage to ask her out, and he takes her to a pizza joint, and you can tell she doesn't really care for the pizza, but he's not there for the pizza either. He likes that they play good music at this
which is just fucking
random
jazz.
pizzeria. Yeah,
like,
why is this random like
delicatessen
style
pizzeria
playing like jazz that he likes? I mean,
is that a New York thing? I don't know. Maybe it's a New York thing. Or maybe they just needed the scene for it. But did you notice how in the background of that scene, here's this young couple having their first date, and they're surrounded by a bunch of, like, old men who were sitting there eating lunch or having a meal at the same restaurant? It's...
Oh, the two of them were the young ones.
Yeah, and everybody else was
around them was
ancient.
older.
Yeah, because, you know, a tiny delicatessen that serves pizza that plays jazz...
It's probably only an older person's.
Like, I would go there, but I don't see many of my, like, you know, 20-year-old friends doing that. I don't recommend this film, and I will not recommend this film to anyone. If anything, I'm going to try to talk people out of watching it.
Say, don't watch this one. Watch La La Land.
Yeah, La La Land's the better film.
And it's not just because
Which is funny.
One of my coworkers told me La La Land is like the bright side of jazz, and then Whiplash is the dark side of jazz.
Which, yes, everything
and
is dark side.
I kind of laughed at him, and because I kind of knew what this movie was about, but not really. I basically knew that Miles Teller was playing a drummer, and J.K. Simmons was an asshole teacher, or whatever he was. Not even a teacher, really.
Yeah, he's not.
I didn't see him teach anything. Just
just
yelling and telling people,
asshole.
"That's not my fucking tempo."
Yeah.
Like, okay, dude.
Like, let's settle down.
Thanks for that. But when they're at the pizza place, I laughed because we had just watched La La Land before this, and we kind of made fun of Ryan Gosling being the white guy explaining jazz to
black musicians,
or just a white guy explaining jazz to a girl, who didn't ask for it, and didn't care in the originally.
Nope.
At least Emma Stone's character got a passion for, or at least appreciated it more, because Ryan Gosling's character was so much more inviting into the world of jazz. He wasn't so gatekeeper about it.
Yes, he was much more welcoming, but also, if given the choice, I don't know how many people would take Miles Teller, professional shoe, over Ryan Gosling. Because at the very least, Ryan Gosling, who was a bit of an asshole, like...
In the beginning.
Yeah, his character is a bit of an asshole and he learns how to get over himself. I don't think... If anything, Andrew is a good kid who becomes an asshole by the end of this movie. Their paths are different. And, like, so, yeah, Ryan Gosling is charming and he's handsome and he's, you know, he's Ryan Gosling. Like, how could you not? But there was an equal amount of passion, but there was more consideration. First of all, he was just a nicer person than anybody in Whiplash. And yeah, so he still mansplains jazz to a woman, which happens in this movie too. Yep. But not only does he change himself, but he gets to change Emma Stone's mind by being a good person and not a complete and utter self-righteous little prick.
Yeah, Melissa Benoist's character is going to be like, I never want to listen to jazz again.
Yeah, like, fuck that guy. And, you know, like, it was the nicest thing that Andrew did was tell Melissa Benoist to, like, look, this isn't going to work out, and here's why. Like, he laid out the next 6 months for these two people.
And he was probably right.
And he was 100%
from what we saw,
right.
From what we saw towards the end, he was absolutely right.
Yeah. You're right, it hurt in the moment, but he saved that girl a whole host of troubles.
I wrote down that I feel like there's a world where Ryan Reynolds' character from La La Land grows up to be J.K. Simmons' character from Whiplash.
If he had never met Emma Stone, he would have.
Absolutely.
If, you know, J.K. Simmons even said of his cameo in La La Land that it was almost as if Fletcher got fired, decided to give up on jazz entirely, and only ever wanted to listen to shitty Christmas music for the rest of his life, and, you know, moved to L.A., he moved from New York to L.A., and, you know...
I like that one, too.
Yeah, like, I accept that headcanon, for sure, but, I don't know, like, I get people's critiques of La La Land. I do. I understand that it's not everybody's favorite movie. And that's totally fine. It is still a movie that is treasured to me for not only the reasons that I saw it, like that wonderful moment with Barbie watching it for the first time, watching it with you for the first time, the music, which is so much more enjoyable, but like, yeah, it's a lighter side of jazz. And I don't always need my media to be sad and to be dark and to be twisted and to be asshole filled. Like, I don't gravitate towards those sorts of stories because they're too realistic, and we live in an absolute shitstorm of a world that is on fire and getting worse daily, you know, while I still have to go to work to make meager funds to keep a roof over mine and my children's heads to survive, right? A fucking clog to capitalism. I don't want to see that shit in my films. I want to see bright, happy fantasy joy. Of course I'm going to enjoy La La Land, the brighter side of jazz, more than this movie, because... why wouldn't you? Just why wouldn't you?
Even though the same composer worked on this, Justin Hurwitz, I was not impressed with any of the music in this movie.
No, I couldn't. Because
most of it, a lot of it was original, or not. A lot of it was from
the old jazz standards.
Old jazz, standards that were written a long time ago before this movie came into existence.
Yeah,
not a lot of original music. I guess there was one song that may have been an original piece from the composer, but...
Maybe? I don't know. The song at the end that... I think that was just a new song in the performance.
But not...
I don't know. I'd have to look it up, and I don't
just because the way he put it, like, this is a new song for... Which was, he was probably talking about a new song for us.
Yeah.
So, and that's just another reason why I really gravitate towards La La Land. Not just because of the lighter side, but it's a lot of fun, very entertaining, very fun to rewatch.
Doesn't have a shoe walking around.
Doesn't have a shoe walking around with drumsticks. I felt like the direction in, even though it's the same writer-director, the writing and directing in La La Land is so much better.
Oh yeah, no, it is a better put together film across the board. And on the one hand, I'm sure that there are people out there that are like, well, you don't have to compare them. But it's literally the same man telling the same story
with different characters,
different coasts,
and
different goals. You know, I off the top of my head can't remember how well... No, La La Land won quite a few Academy Awards, didn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, it
So-
swept everything except for the Oscars.
Yeah, except for the Best Picture.
Yeah.
And so, like, the world enjoyed La La Land more than this movie. And going back to it, maybe it was a time and a place thing. Could that have been? Because in 2014, we had just moved to a new state. We had very young children. We were just working to survive.
Oh, yeah, we had other things to do
We
than
had
go to the movie
so
theaters.
many other things to do than go to the movie theaters. So I can't tell you what the, like, cultural, like, lexicon was in that era and why this movie hit so hard. But I have a feeling that if this movie came out today, people would still praise J.K. Simmons for the acting, but I don't think that they would appreciate it as much as they used to.
Yeah, and I completely understand why he got the award over so many different award shows. I understand why... I even understand why sound won. I understand why editing won, because there was some decent sound and editing.
Yeah,
in
the sound
film
was
as well.
amazing, and the fact that the editing usually played with, like, the hits on the drum set was brilliant. Like, I'm not saying this movie is a poorly made film. It is a very well made film. I just don't like it.
I think I really disconnected from the character of Andrew when he was at the dinner table. Like, I was like, when you're always trying to find a way you can connect to a character. That's what makes the best movies better than mediocre movies. That's one way. You need to find a way your audience can connect to somebody in the movie, and it definitely wasn't J.K. Simmons.
No.
And I was really trying hard to connect to Andrew, and so the moment that he goes home for a dinner, I'm guessing it's his house, because his dad's there, and maybe his uncle.
It might have been his aunt and uncle's house. They don't really say.
And then was it his brothers or cousins?
It was his cousins.
Okay,
yeah.
So they didn't really. I don't really remember any of that, but like I said, I was trying to connect to him, and then they asked him if he had any friends, and he responded with, "I don't want friends." He would rather be remembered as a friendless, famous drummer who is known as a drunk, a drunk heroin overdosing, dead famous drummer than just a mediocre
A football player,
or even like a decent drummer that's not as known. And just the way he put it and the way he was trying to put down
the whole family,
yeah. like you have one cousin or whatever who is like president of the Model UN or whatever he was,
off on the road to be a Rhodes Scholar.
Yeah, who probably has a future being a teacher. He has another cousin who probably has a future somewhere in football.
Yeah.
And makes fun of him that, no, the NFL's never going to call you. Why do you even try?
That was funny.
The way he tries to, his snobbery of trying to lift himself above these other people as a drummer. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying being a drummer is something that should be looked down on.
Yeah.
It's just the way he was trying to put down other people and make himself bigger.
Yeah. That
I immediately was just like, no, I don't. This guy has no redeeming qualities, just as much as J.K. Simmons' character had no redeeming qualities.
That scene for me, like, because I've been, and you have been, and we've all been, and uncomfortable family dinners where, like, the star cousin is getting all the praise from everybody, and you're sitting here over in the corner, like, I exist too, and I'm successfully surviving this world, which in itself is something, like, we've all had those moments of, like, aunt and uncles praising their children while your parents look at you like, oh, what the fuck?
What's your problem?
Or older brothers or younger sisters, however you were whatever the family dynamic could be. So all of them were, like, vying over who's the best. But yeah, Miles Teller, Andrew's character, went just completely, like, just super asshole moment. Just a super, like, he just went full J.K. Simmons in that moment. A lot of people tried to convince Damien Chazelle to cut that scene from the movie, and he didn't want to. And I think that it's important because you get to see that Andrew's a piece of shit. That's kind of what we're stuck with.
Was that the intention of the director, though, to make him a piece of shit?
No,
But he came off as a piece of shit.
He wrote it.
I know, but
so
I'm trying to get around the fact that there's nothing redeeming about any of these characters. I couldn't connect to anybody. I couldn't. By the end of the movie, it ended. I was just like, okay.
I was happy when this movie was over.
Yeah.
I'm happy to put this behind us. We're going into a string of movies that I'm not super excited about, but at the same time, I'm excited to watch with Caveman for the first time. Like, next week we've got Get Out coming out. And I've never seen Get Out. I've never wanted to see Get Out because I don't like horror films. I know it's a great movie. People have talked about it for years, but I don't like horror films, so I have, not watched that film. But I'm going to watch it with my husband because A, anything for the content, and B, I'm excited to watch it with him and talk to him about it. Same with Midsommar. Like, this is not a movie that I have ever wanted to watch because it terrifies me. But I'm going to sit down and I'm going to watch it with my husband because, I'm excited. And I might love them or I might hate them. I don't know. We'll see how I feel about it. But, I'm glad this movie is behind us. I didn't realize I was going to hate it more than the Joker. And, I'm so glad that I don't ever have to go back to that film. I would rather watch the Joker again than watch this movie ever again. And the Joker's like an hour longer. So I don't know what that says about this film.
Yeah, looking
I hated it.
Looking at the future episodes that we have coming up, I'm like, oh yeah, that one's better than Whiplash. That one's better than Whiplash.
How did Whiplash get above Oppenheimer? How did Whiplash get above The Dark Knight? How did it get above fucking the next 2 Spider-Man movies that we have coming up?
Andrew gets his teacher fired for the abuse that he and others have experienced from him, and plus the family of the student who killed himself wants to sue, but they really can't afford suing somebody like that. So they find another way to get rid of him. He quits. He essentially leaves the school. Both Andrew and J.K. Simmons leave the school.
They're both kicked out.
They're both kicked out for Andrew's behavior of essentially attacking a teacher. But to be fair, he did just get hit by a semi.
Yeah, which that was probably that whole sequence of Andrew trying to get to the performance, having to rent the car, leaving his drumsticks at, like, that shot of his drumsticks at the car rental place was, to me, the most important shot in the whole movie.
And I missed it
and you
somehow.
Missed it, yeah.
I just wasn't looking at it.
And then when he gets hit by that fucking truck, the visceral reaction, because it's a really clever shot showing the inside of the car, that point of view was very good. And that was, like, as visceral as I was like, oh my God, like, this poor guy, maybe this will snap him out of it, but it is not. It is the exact opposite.
That was, like, the most interesting part of the movie, I felt, for me personally. Like, from the moment the bus gets a flat to the moment he sits down at the drum kit in bloody.
Completely bloody.
Yeah, that whole sequence was my favorite part of the whole movie, just because of...
you were basically watching an addict trying to get a fix.
Right, and to not... Or somebody who's been told, if you're late for work one more time, you're fired. And so even getting hit by a semi didn't stop him in the moment, even though he probably should have. But... So he eventually quits drumming. Like, he packs up his kit, he tears down his jazz posters. Like, he is just, I hate jazz now because I can't be the best. Later on, he decides, I want my girlfriend back now, because now I'm not pursuing that. Now I want to go back to how I had it, and now I want friends. Now I want a girlfriend. If I can't drum, now I can just be a normal person. And I love that she has a boyfriend, even if it was a lie.
I know.
I hope it was a lie. I hope she was just like, fuck you.
She should have just said that. She should have just been like,
fuck you and
go
hang
fuck
up.
yourself.
Go fuck yourself.
Click.
Right. Yeah, that was really satisfying for me to hear her say that. When he meets J.K. Simmons' character at the little jazz club that he's working at as a pianist, they have a conversation about him getting fired or having to step down, and him telling Andrew, they just don't understand what I was trying to do with these students. I was trying to make them better. And I essentially took it to mean nobody understands my genius.
Yeah.
And, like, this is how you make famous musicians. and nobody else can do it except for me. And if I can't do it, jazz is dead.
Yeah.
Like I was
Like all of jazz rides on J.K. Simmons' shoulders.
I was the world's last hope for jazz to keep living, and now.
Help me, J.K. Simmons. You're jazz's only hope.
And once again, hearing that come from a white guy is just like, why?
Just settle down, Damien Chazelle. Just settle the fuck down.
We get it. You like jazz,
Yeah.
and you want everybody to know how amazing it is and to get into it. And he's essentially Damien Chazelle himself in this movie feels like he's mansplaining to everybody about jazz.
You know what I found funny about that whole scene in the little jazz bar with J.K. Simmons? He wasn't that good of a piano player. He was fine at best. He's sitting there playing jazz piano, and it was like he had nothing on Sebastian from La La Land. Like, he was just okay. And that's all I can say to it.
Yeah.
Like, there was nothing spectacular about that performance. He knew that Andrew was the reason that he got fired. Which, how could you not? But, like, he knew that Andrew was the reason. So, looking back on that scene, I enjoyed it a little bit more because it's almost like a chess match where, like, you could see J.K. Simmons. It's funny that we call J.K. Simmons and not his character's name.
I don't care about his character. I like J.K. Simmons more than Fletcher.
It is more fun to say. But we're calling Miles Teller Andrew.
Andrew's a better person than Miles Teller.
Which may or may not be necessarily true. I don't know much about Miles Teller, but I don't like
We don't
Miles
like him. I don't care for him.
He's fine.
He's fine.
I don't know. Like,
he hasn't been in a lot of things where I'm like, oh, that was a great performance. You know, he was Captain Fantastic, or Mr. Fantastic, whatever his name is.
Oh, I never saw that piece of shit, because I saw the trailer and I went, ooh, that looks terrible.
I haven't seen a good performance for Mr. Fantastic ever. Like, not even
Yolan
John
Griffiths
Krasinski.
did a great job, excuse
fine.
me. He
John
does a
Krasinski
great
was
job.
okay, even though he's on screen for like
Pedro
2
Pascal's
minutes.
gonna fucking murder it.
I hope Pedro does a good job.
Just listen to the joy in our voice talking about the Fantastic Four more than the rest of the movie that we're actually supposed to be talking about.
Oh, yeah, 'cause...
But my whole thing with Miles Teller is that he's a shoe. Like, and I mean that to say, like, you see some actors and you can kind of see that they're just cardboard cutouts, that people are moving around the scene. They're very wooden and very stiff. And you're like, oh, how did you make this happen, Liam Hemsworth? Is it just because the rest of your family is famous? Like, what's going on? And there's like, Miles Teller has the presence of a shoe that has been brought to life and told he can be an actor. And so the fact that we had to follow him, and he's in every scene of this movie, just was another reason why I was sitting back going, ugh. They tried so hard to make him a leading man, and it didn't work. And here we are a decade later.
Like, what was the last time you saw Miles Teller in anything?
He was in Maverick, Top Gun Maverick.
See, I completely forgot
he was in Goose's son. He was Baby Goose.
That's right.
He was the
Goose's
literal Baby Goose.
I already God,
movie.
he's so forgettable.
Yeah, well, and he's got that mustache, which is the only thing I remember.
I know, but
I mean, Glenn Powell is better.
Powell's better
in Top Gun Maverick than Miles Teller is, because you're right. Miles Teller is greater. I forgot about it until I looked it up on IMDb. I was like, "What's this fucker been up to?" Oh yeah.
Yeah, sure. He's like almost 10 years older in that compared to this, so he's going to look a little different, and plus, he, like the mustache and.
But it doesn't.
I mean, we could have a whole podcast about Top Gun Maverick too, but no time for it. It's just a remake of New Hope. But anyway, yeah, I also wrote down that how J.K. Simmons' character believes that essentially violence, belittling, and dehumanizing makes you a better and possibly even a more infamous player. And I call bullshit on all of it.
Huge bullshit.
I call bullshit on all of it. The one kind of direction that I kind of found fun, and he repeated it again, the same kind of camera shot was repeated in La La Land, but it's at the end where Miles he's drumming a lot, and which before I get to that, first of all, his drum solo, I've been to some shows with drum solos, like our friends in swing bands, they have great drum solos.
Fucking remember how Matt would play in Fat
It
Cat
was
Swinger?
beautiful, and I loved it, but this borderline's on ridiculous, because there's moments where I was just like, if I was in the audience, I'd be looking at my watch like, dude,
like, what the fuck? If I was the other bands that were supposed to play that night, I would have been like, The fuck? They're going over. What is happening?
When it goes from a solo to just a guy pounding on drums fast, it doesn't impress me anymore.
No.
Could I do it? Absolutely not. I could bang on him, but nothing. It's not going to sound like anything.
Yeah, you're not a drummer.
But at the same time, cut it down a little bit. I don't know. It wasn't my thing. But
I think on IMDb it says it's like a 9-minute solo, or like his solo is 5 minutes. It's like a 9-minute performance, which is ridiculous. That's just too much drumming.
Too much drumming. Too much just bang, 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 bang.
Would
bang,
I
really
sit
fast.
through a 5-minute drum solo by Taylor Hawkins? Abso-fucking-lutely. But that's because I'd be watching him and watching Dave Grohl and watching the rest of the Foo Fighters murder it, and I would be thrilled because I was at a Foo Fighters show where Taylor Hawkins was still with us. Or Keith Moon. Like, I would give anything to be able to go back and watch the
See
Who.
some of those guys live.
Yeah, live. Yeah. Like, what an incredible experience to get to enjoy. Give me a 15-minute Keith Moon drum solo. I would listen to all of it, and it would be incredible because he's Keith fucking Moon.
He entertains you while he's playing, not just with the drums, but his antics, his personality comes out in the drumming.
He was an asshole, but he wasn't an asshole like Miles
Andrew has no personality, charisma while in his acting or in his drumming. But to go back to my point about the shot. During the drum solo, it pans quickly to J.K. Simmons and then back to Miles drumming, back and forth, reminding me of Ryan Gosling on the piano, cutting to Emma Stone dancing. Back and forth, yeah.
Which is a clever shot, but also like...
The fact that he did it twice.
Yeah, did I need to see it twice in 2 weeks? I don't know.
No.
Like...
And if I watched these movies 2 years apart, I'd forget about it.
Yeah.
But,
well, should we talk about the ending then, since we've kind of reached that point?
Yeah.
So J.K. Simmons offers Andrew a chance to drum in some sort of like light competition. I couldn't tell if it was a competition or a showcase, and I don't care to look it up.
Jazz.
Yeah, but some sort of jazz performance. And he's
JVC.
like, you know the 2 songs, you know Whiplash and you know Caravan, so I need you to be my other drummer shit. So I need you to do this. And so he gets back into it, and essentially he starts taking those drugs again. He takes another hit. Right as they get on stage, J.K. Simmons says, "I know it was you who got me fired."
Get in his head right before he's about to play.
Right before he's about to play. And then picks a song
that
Andrew doesn't know. Like, Andrew does not have sheet music for it. He's never heard this song before. Everybody else knows this song, but he doesn't. And you see the shit-eating grin on J.K. Simmons' face.
Like, haha, I got him now.
I got you.
Payback, bitch.
Andrew struggles through the entire performance, and all the other members of the band are like, the fuck are you doing, man? Like, the bassist is right behind him. It's like, because, it's, the drumming is not going along with the music, which, again, if you're that good of a drummer, you can't improvise. Jazz is all about improvising. That's the other thing. Like, that's half the conversation that Seb has in La La Land about... jazz is about writing and listening and creating new music at the same time, and the drummer's doing their thing, and the trumpeter's doing his thing, blah, 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 fucking blah, blah, blah. But, like, Miles Teller can't improvise?
I was going to say...
He can't hear the music and just pick a beat to go along with it?
The way, especially, the way Sebastian did on the piano, where he doesn't need... He can just go with it.
Yeah,
and
he could just be a part of the song. And Miles can't do that, and we're expected to think he's the best.
This is a pre-written song, and he has to do it the way the sheet music does it, instead of it being an improvised song. Yeah. I think that's the only difference, mainly.
Which is a shitty thing for J.K. Simmons' character to do,
but
and
you're right.
You feel it.
As a musician, as a professional musician, at the level that he wants to be, he should have been able to do something more than what he was doing.
Yeah.
He couldn't even keep the beat. He can hear what... I mean, I understand as a drummer, you're the one keeping the beat for the rest of the band.
But you hear the bassist.
You hear the bassist.
He's standing right now. He's sitting right next to the bassist.
Once you start hearing the horns and the bassists doing their thing, he had to have been able to know how to do something better than what he ended up doing.
Yeah. And it might not have been perfect, but it was better. It could have been better than what it was.
It may not have been what the sheet music would have said.
Yeah,
but
which was a dick move.
Of course.
On... J.K. Simmons' part, who's an asshole, and he knows it, and, Andrew storms off the stage, but then he turns around and comes back, and he takes the performance over by just sitting down and starting to wail on the fucking drums, leading into Caravan, and it's an impressive performance, sure.
Sure. That's why that finale is favorite part of the movie.
But
That
and
the
seeing
semi.
like the way that like for me it was seeing the way that J.K. Simmons was getting into it and Miles Teller was getting into it and the way that they were playing off of each other. Like it's just you were literally watching the beginning of the most unhealthy relationship either of these two men will ever have, which will probably lead to their downside. Like and then the movie just fucking ends. It just ends. It's just like smash cut to credits, and I think that too made me so angry that I was
all
like,
the questions that you have,
there's
you get
no
answers
resolution.
for.
There's no
resolution. No.
And it's not like in La La Land where you don't get the resolution of Mia and Seb being together, but you realize that that's for the best, and they're going off to
And
have.
it's not necessarily the story that was being told either.
And they've both have gotten to where they've wanted to go with the help of each other, but now it's time to move on. This is the beginning of like what could be a shitty fucking relationship between these two men, which I would not like to watch, and I'm glad there's no Whiplash 2. But I'm still angry that it just ended, and now I'm stuck with no resolution. One of these people should have ended up in jail. I don't know who, but one of them should. And, I mean, J.K. Simmons. It's absolutely J.K. Simmons. It was almost like Andrew chose drugs over his family by leaving his dad backstage and going back out there to pander to J.K. Simmons' character and try to one-up him. These two are going to try to one-up each other till the very end, until they either fight, fuck, or murder each other. And frankly, hopefully there's a fan fiction out there that's all three of those things that I can just read and let go of.
So before Whiplash, the movie, Damien Chazelle did Whiplash, the short film.
To try to get funding to make the movie.
It is what it is, and I feel like Whiplash at least gave us La La Land. You have, they give him, he's like, look what I can do. And they're like, all right, here's $3 million. And yeah, it only made 13, but it made 13 when originally it was only 3.
I mean, it made over 4 times
so
its budget.
It didn't fail. It won a lot of awards.
Yeah.
It won a lot of critics.
It was a successful movie.
Like I said, it's certified fresh. There were plenty of people who did
People
like
love
it.
it.
People loved it. Even audiences loved it just as much as critics.
Letterboxd users
Letterboxd has this,
still love it. If
and
the fact that this movie is in the teens...
It's in the top 10 for their live action.
No, it's not. It's in the teens for both live action and 11, 12. It's the 12th movie.
Okay. 12th movie. All right. So still, top 12,
Top 12?
movies out of 75.
Silence of the Lambs? Over fucking Endgame?
Taxi Driver?
Over, you know, like
Which I
Baby
also haven't
Driver I
seen,
kind
but
of get. Over,
Baby
you know,
Driver's great.
The way that people talk about her is insane.
Her's
People
good.
love her.
I know.
Scott Pilgrim, like fucking Black Panther. How is
I know.
this
movie, how did it get up so high?
in this day and age, 10 years later, people still revere this movie as much as when it came out?
At least La La Land's higher. We
I was
obviously
recording
missed
this.
something that everybody else is enjoying.
Yeah, but I've had people pop up and be like, I hated that fucking film.
okay.
Like,
Good. We're not the
Megan,
only
shout
ones.
out my darling, was like, this movie makes me so angry. Her husband loves it, and her husband sees himself in it because of his military career. So I understand that maybe there is absolutely a resonance there, which I respect and appreciate. But, like, I don't get it as a casual movie goer, as a non-casual, as a frothing at the mouth moviegoer. I don't understand why people like this film.
But within 2 years, he was able to get 10 times more money to make La La Land.
Yeah.
And it made almost $500 million.
Yeah, and it's a movie that I love. I mean,
so if anything, Whiplash gave us La La Land.
I still don't think it deserves this level of praise, though. And I know that art is subjective, and that's part of what this movie is about, but I still just don't get it.
Well, then let's just get to it, Maggie.
Sure. Reviews.
What would you give this movie out of 5 stars?
I'm giving it a 1.5. And, like, I thought about giving it a 2. I was like, you know what? I'll give it a 2. Because of the scene where... the car crash scene, and, like, how I was roped into that. And then the finale, which I thought was well done, but still I have a lot of issues with. But as we've sat here talking, like, the reviews... my idea of this movie is going down and down. So, yeah, it barely gets a 1.5 for me. I would happily never watch this movie again. You know, people can love it, and that's great, good for you guys. I don't see it, and I don't get it, and I don't think I ever will. So, yeah, that's me. What about you?
I was thinking between a 2 and a 2.5.
Fair.
And I'm trying to think of why.
Yeah.
And like, I don't like this. I don't.
You don't hate it?
I don't hate it. I don't have a visceral hate for it.
I kind of hate it.
Like, I think 1 and 1.5 numbers are usually reserved for movies like
Rebel Moon.
Rebel Moon or the or the last Matrix movie.
Oh boy.
Or stuff like that. That just where it just doesn't make any sense, and the production or the direction, the writing is just so shitty that it's barely a movie.
Yeah.
This is at least a movie.
Yeah.
Like it or hate, or like I hate it, and like you said, art is subjective. But from a movie making standpoint, it's a fine. Everything works in the way that good movies are made. Like, I don't know how I'm trying to justify this, or why I'm even trying to justify this.
If you feel that like a 2 is acceptable, then you don't have to justify it.
I know. I guess that's what I'm saying. A 1.5 is going to shitty movies that don't even resemble a movie in its final form. Whereas this at least was a movie, and not every movie you have to like all the characters or any of them. We're about, like we said, we're about to get into some heavier, darker movies, even more, where you may not like any of the characters in it. Midsommar is kind of like that. You may leave it being like, I don't like any of these people, or be the opposite. I've been surprised before. Joker surprised me, and I'm actually really surprised that neither one of us liked this one.
Yeah,
considering how high it is on the list and how much I've heard about it.
I was worried sitting there watching it. I was like, what if I think this movie's absolute shit? And Caveman's like, 5 stars, man. Like, it's amazing. Like, I'd just be like, what the fuck? I'd have to rethink our entire marriage.
So I'm going to say a 2.5.
That's more generous than you need to be, but I'll respect it.
Well, on a more fun note, Maggie, I have 2 questions for you.
Hit me with them.
So, first question. Would the presence of Oscar Isaac have made this movie better?
Yes, absolutely. I would have enjoyed it more.
With just his face?
Yes, just because of his pure, perfect face.
Just something to look at while you watch this other
Well,
madness.
I hate watched this movie. I would just be able to look at his face.
Well, and then I'm very curious, for the second question, which character would Oscar Isaac have played?
All of them. Just replace everybody in this fucking movie with Oscar Isaac. Somebody out there can do this with AI. Just replace everybody in this film with Oscar Isaac, and it would probably only make it like a 2.5 for me. But at least I would get to see close-ups of Oscar Isaac's hands.
Oscar Isaac yelling at Oscar Isaac?
Yeah, no, sign me up for that. I'm all about that. But like, if I got close-up of that man's hands doing anything, I'm down. So yeah, just give me Oscar Isaac instead of this movie.
But if there was just one character you think he could play, that...
I mean, I would replace Miles Teller with him, because at the very least, you would take a shoe out of the screen and put in the most beautiful human being to ever walk this planet. So, I mean, yeah, just replace Miles Teller and everything with Oscar Isaac, like we should have done with Kevin Spacey and Christopher Plummer.
And now it's time for the news with me, Caveman. Hey everybody. And this week for the news, I'm just going to do the box office news, which has been a pretty interesting week. We've got If, the new Ryan Reynolds film, out at number 1. It made $33 million at the box office this weekend, followed by Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which made another $25 million, which finally put it over $100 million total for domestic. Which, by the way, if you haven't seen Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, I really enjoyed it. Not quite as much as the last 2, which was Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and War of the Planet of the Apes. The first one, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, I enjoyed that one as well, but I liked Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes better than that first one. Still, all really good movies. I find them to be really captivating and fun to watch, and the mocap characters or mocap actors coming to life through these characters. I watched a little bit of behind the scenes of how they do a lot of the mocap, and from when Andy Serkis first started with little reflectors on his wrists and on his bodysuit, to now they're doing these really neat outdoor LED lights shining at the cameras. The technology for mocap is just getting crazier and crazier. I highly recommend everybody should watch King of the Planet of the Apes, especially in theaters with that great sound. In third place is a movie I have never heard of, but saw a short trailer on Instagram, I think. It's called The Strangers Chapter 1. It made almost $12 million last weekend. Real quick, if you are interested, I'm pretty sure it's a horror film. A young couple, after their car breaks down in an eerie small town, they're forced to spend the night in a remote cabin. And then 3 masked strangers show up with seemingly no motive. And it gets crazier from there, I guess. So if you're in the mood to watch a horror movie in May, you have that option. Then, in fourth place, we've got The Fall Guy, which got another $8 million. Unfortunately, this is only a total of almost $63 million after 3 weeks in the theater, which isn't great because I'm pretty sure this movie cost a lot of money. Production budget was $125 million. Not great for them. Maggie and I are going to be watching this movie tomorrow on the 23rd. Really looking forward to seeing it. I love Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt. I love David Leitch. I think he's a fun stuntman / director. He makes really fun movies like Bullet Train and Deadpool 2 and many more. I'm not sure where the disconnect is for audiences, if they're just like, I'll catch that one at home, or maybe they're just not interested in a seemingly fun action flick. But I'm going to catch it tomorrow with Maggie, and so that alone will be fun. And then lastly, in fifth place, still hanging on, is Challengers with Zendaya. It made another $2.8 million. I've heard nothing but good things for that one, but that will probably be one that I catch at home when it's streaming. Other than that, kind of a slow week. Haven't seen a lot of new movies lately. I'm trying to get through a movie that was recommended to me from a friend called Let the Corpses Tan. It's a Belgian film, and it is weird, but I'm really digging it. It's only an hour and a half long. It's been a busy week for me, and I keep falling asleep, just exhausted every day. So this week I'm going to do my best to watch the rest of that one. But everybody should let us know what you're watching this week or into, or what we should check out maybe. Our Instagram at movieminglepod is probably the easiest way to let us in on some recommendations. Of course, there's always the classic email choice to contact us, movieminglepod@gmail.com. Now I'll just send it back to Maggie.
So that's this week's episode of Movie Mingle. We hope that you liked it a lot more than we liked this movie. Please feel free to rate us, hopefully more than 1.5 stars, across the board on whatever social media platform you happen to be listening on. Feel free to leave reviews as well, because we'd love to hear feedback. You can follow us on Instagram at movieminglepod. You can follow us on Letterboxd at movieminglepod, where you get to see how I rate the movies ultimately. And spoiler alert, this one's going to be at the bottom for a very, very long time. And we also have movieminglepod@gmail.com, where you can write us all of your fan questions and theories and wants and needs. We look forward to next week with Get Out. I'm excited to watch it, even though I'm terrified by it, but I can't wait to watch it with my shapoopy. And yeah, go forth and go mingle, friends. We'll see you then.
Are you an effective team?
We are an effective team.
Let them fight.
How did you just do that?
I'm a really good lawyer.
Here on Caladan, we ruled by air power and sea power. On Arrakis, we need to cultivate desert power. Welcome, Mr. Beach. What's that bar? I'm a little confused.
Well, we wouldn't want that, would we?
I don't want to brag, but I will. I was in the Avengers.
The Avengers?
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. What is that?
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
Toga, 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 toga.